The next question is in the name of Assembly Member Cooper on excessive heat.
Can I thank the member for a question? The impacts of climate change are no longer a distant threat. They're here, right now, affecting lives and neighbourhoods. In 2023, I commissioned the London Climate Resilience Review to ensure London is prepared for the impacts of climate change. And I'm proud of the work we've done since publication of the review. We've launched London's first surface water flooding strategy, completed the Helios heat preparedness exercise, and trained 300 members of staff in climate literacy training. A climate green infrastructure framework and local nature recovery strategy are targeting action in the places that are most in need of urban cooling. And since 2016, my tree planting programme has planted over 600,000 trees. In line with Recommendation 9 on developing a strategic plan for heat, we're making significant progress. We've secured funding through the EU Pathways to Resilience programme. Working with London councils, this will produce a vision for a climate-resilient London, a heat risk plan and an investment strategy. It will drive action from partners to ensure buildings are able to cope with rising temperatures. London is one of the 40 regions across Europe that are part of the Pathways to Resilience, and we're sharing best practice and listening to Londoners' experience to help inform our actions. While Recommendation 24 on climate resilience in the Decent and Future Home Standards is directed to the government, I'm still acting in London. We have strong policies in the London Plan on overheating, including requiring developments to mitigate overheating risk using passive measures such as shutters or blinds. I'm also working with London councils and boroughs to upgrade existing buildings to make them more energy efficient, climate resilient and affordable to run, especially for vulnerable and low-income Londoners. Extreme heat as a result of climate change is not going away, and I'll continue to do everything within my powers to ensure London's buildings are fit to cope with higher temperatures.
Well, thank you very much, Mr Mayor, and thank you for your leadership in this area. And I think commissioning the London Climate Resilience Review shows your thoughts were probably ahead of a lot of other people's on this topic. But with 5 of the 6 last years having been the hottest on record and this summer having been the hottest ever, we're in the middle of looking at the London Plan, and I just wondered, you've just gone through a long list of all the other things that we've been doing, but is this something that we're going to be able to make a mandatory requirement around shading, which you mentioned, and ventilation, so that new buildings are fit for the future?
I mean, it's just underscoring what the member said in her question. 5 of the 6 hottest years on record are in the last 6 years. I mean, just to think about that. That shows this is a here and now problem. And so we had a consultation out towards the new London Plan, which didn't deal directly with this issue. But she is so right. We've got to address this issue because the London Plan determines the buildings that will be around for the next 50, 100 years. And they've got to be fit for purpose for the next 50, 100 years. And we know that retrofitting buildings is incredibly hard, incredibly expensive, but we've got an opportunity in terms of, we've talked about 88,000 new homes, building new towns, making sure those are fit for the present and for the future. And I'm expecting her expertise to be really important in terms of not just drafting the plan, call for evidence, organising groups to make sure their points are heard, because we've been world leaders before with the London Plan. I think we're going to be world leaders again with the new London Plan as well.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and I'm sure actually everyone around the table is going to be concerned with this, and obviously the impact on Londoners going forward in a megacity as we are, it could be quite severe. In terms not just of shading and ventilation, insulation is so important, both in terms of keeping buildings warm, which I think everyone understands, but insulation is also a really good way of stopping the solar gain that you get from the sun shining down onto the roof and then really heating places up. Is that also something that's going to be strengthened in the new plan?
Yeah, so she's right to remind us, and I wasn't aware of the science until relatively recently, but it's obvious when you think about it. Insulation stops the heat from hot outdoors into cooler indoor spaces. And so, yes, we'll make sure we consider things like, larger windows that can open, taller ceilings, shading, but also things like insulation must be mandatory for the reasons you alluded to, but also they keep bills down. So one of the good lessons I've learned from these policies, they're not just environmentally friendly, they help address the cost of living crisis. And that's why I'm really grateful the government's given us a huge grant of £230 million to make sure we can insulate more buildings in London, whether it's schools or council estates and so forth, because it not just addresses the issue of climate change, which she's so passionate about, but also the other issue that her constituents and her talk about regularly, which is the cost of living crisis, keeping bills down as well in the winter.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Chair.
London stands at a crossroads, a city shaped by history, yet facing a future defined by climate. What we heard in this discussion wasn't just about numbers, policies, or plans, it was about survival, adaptation, and leadership in an era when the climate emergency is no longer theoretical. As temperatures soar and summers grow more unpredictable, London's skyline, its homes, schools, offices, and public spaces will all need to evolve. The challenge isn't just to build more, but to build smarter, homes that stay cool without excessive energy use, buildings that breathe, neighborhoods shaded by nature rather than choked by concrete. The mayor's message is clear: climate resilience can no longer be optional. Every plan, every development, every decision must now be filtered through the lens of sustainability. Because what's built today will define how Londoners live for the next 50 years. Yet this transformation demands more than government grants and planning policies. It calls for collaboration from councils, architects, developers, and citizens alike. The fight against extreme heat isn't fought in City Hall alone, it's fought in every street, every community, every home. And beyond cooling our cities, it's also about cooling tempers, turning anxiety about climate change into collective action. Each new window, each patch of green, each insulated wall brings us one step closer to a safer, more livable London. But here's the critical question that remains. If we already know the risks, the science, and the solutions, what's really stopping us from making climate resilience a mandatory part of every building, every home, and every plan for London's future? If you found this analysis useful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, so you never miss our next political update.